Hello everybody, this is FIDE Master Dalton Perrine from chessuniversity.com, and this is again another video in the Tactics Time video series. In this video series, I'll be working on solving different tactics trainer positions here on chess.com. They're going to be rating tactics with the rating between 1200 to 1500 or so. We're going to be hitting the start button in just a second. With each position, I'm going to be first of all showing you the tactic, giving you the chance to pause the video so you can work on solving the problem yourself, and then I'll be explaining my thought process and showing the solution to the puzzle at that point. So, without any more waiting, it's time for some tactics. So let's go ahead and hit the start button here and see what we get. Okay, so it looks like black has just made the move b6 in this position. Go ahead and pause the video, see what you can come up with, and we'll figure out the answer together in just a second. Okay, so in this position here, as white is the one to move here, the first thing I notice, especially with black's most recent move b6, is that now the knight on c6 is undefended. And I also see that my bishop is on this lineup. The fianchettoed bishop hits the c6 square, but my knight on f3 is in the way. So I'm already looking for ways to maybe move my knight and create a threat on black's knight. But it's important that if I move my knight somewhere, I also need to do something productive with my knight move as well. I can't just play something like knight d2, which isn't really productive, because black can simply play bishop b7 and protect that knight. If I instead move the knight somewhere active, maybe somewhere where the knight's also threatening something, then I can threaten the knight on c6, as well as a second thing in the position. So kind of like a double attack idea. So I believe in this position there's two pretty good spots for the knight to go to. There's knight to g5, which would obviously threaten bishop takes c6, but knight to g5 also threatens things like knight f7, forking the queen and the rook, and it also threatens maybe the queen going to f7, which would be very strong as well. Now, there is actually another option that looks reasonable as well. Knight e5 also doesn't look too bad here either. Knight e5 would double attack the knight, and the knight is also pinned in a way. So, for example, if the knight took on e5, then I could play bishop takes a8, and I'd be up the exchange there. So knight e5 wins the exchange. Knight g5 might win more than the exchange, though, is what I'm thinking here. The problem with knight g5, though, like, what if black just plays, like, queen d6 or queen d7 to guard the knight? Knight g5, queen d6. I guess I'd still have knight f7 with the fork if I really needed to. Oh, queen f7 actually will also, it'll check the king, but also attack the bishop. So yeah, I'm thinking knight g5 is a bit more powerful because I threaten the knight, but I also threaten the fork on f7. With the queen or the knight actually on f7. So I'm going to lean towards knight to g5 here, and the computer doesn't spit at me and say it's the wrong move right away, so that's a good thing. Knight a5 does attack my queen, but I can move my queen away. I can move my queen down to f7 and check the king. The king will have to go to d7, and then I would have options pretty much. I could take the rook on a8, or I could take the bishop on g7. Both of those would be up a piece or up a rook. Taking the rook would probably be better since it's more material. But either way, we're winning a lot of material in this position, and it's all due to this knight g5 kind of discovered attack on c6, as well as also attacking f7 at the same time. So that's the answer to the position. Let's move on to our next one here. Okay, black has just made the move knight to c7. Go ahead and pause the video, see what you can come up with for white in this position, and then we will talk about it shortly after. Okay, so it's white's move in this position here. As it's white's move here, I'm immediately looking for, I'm always looking for forcing moves in any kind of tactic position. I don't see a way to check black's king right now, though it is pretty weak, so that will probably tie in somehow. I do see a capture on c7. It's actually the only capture I see right now. And the nice thing is when I capture on c7, the queen has to take back, and then the queen actually walks into this lineup that my bishop has aiming at c7. Now, obviously my pawn on e6 or on e5 is in the way, so I think I can take the knight, queen takes back, and then move the pawn up to e6. That'll open up a discovered attack on the queen, and also add an attacker to the knight on d7, and I don't think black has a way to guard against both of those things without losing material. So let's go ahead and take on c7, push the pawn to e6, and it does say that the answer, the tactic has been solved. white is going to win the knight here, no matter what black does. If black tries to block with the knight, my rook is also hitting that square, so bishop takes e5 would win the knight, and bishop takes e5 would also fork the king and the queen, so I'd win even more material there. Okay, let's move on to our next position. So white has just played knight takes d5. It is our move here as black. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for black here. Okay, in this position, as it's being black's move right now, the first thing I note, just first thing that comes to me here, when I see knight takes d5, is that first of all, the king is not very safe for white. Second of all, the knight on d5 is not protected right now, and I also see the d4 pawn is, possible to be captured here. The first thing that went through my mind was maybe queen takes d4, but all that does is really win a pawn. That doesn't really seem super productive, at least considering tactic trainer positions. Usually there's more than winning a pawn. Knight takes d4, he can just move his rook. But actually this undefended knight and the king have something in common. There's a connecting square here on a2. If I move the queen to a2, it'll check the king, but it'll also double attack the knight on d5, and there's no way for white to protect against both things. We're going to pick up the knight, and that is the answer to the puzzle here. Okay, so just a couple of quick puzzles here. We've gone over a couple here, mostly focusing, it seems like, on some discovered attack ideas, some double attack ideas. Just trying to always look for those forcing moves to put the threats on your opponent, put the heat on them, and hopefully win material or get a big advantage. Okay, well that's it for this video. Hope I see you guys again in a future one, and I'll talk with everybody later. All right, bye guys.